Hey guys, Levi from the Rag Company, and in today's video, I am going to be teaching you how to restore and protect your plastic trim. So trim is one of the most overlooked parts of a vehicle. A lot of people just don't think about it. They'll work on protecting the paint, but they really don't know what to do when it comes to trim. Realistically, it is exactly like the paint. It's gonna need to be hydrated and moisturized. So you're probably wondering how your trim got faded in the first place. On new cars, trim and paint, brand new from the factory, come with the UV inhibitor already instilled into itself. However, if you just leave it and you don't touch it and you never add waxes or sealants or protectants to any of the paint or plastic, well, it's gonna start to dry out, especially after a certain number of years. So for this video, we're gonna be focusing on the textured plastic trim only. We're gonna be working on not only the cowl by the windshield, but we're also gonna be working on the rear entry platform. And then on some of these lowers, they haven't faded out, but they just need a little bit of refresh. So we got a couple things to do. Let's get started. So here's the products we're gonna be using today. But before we get to those, why aren't you subscribed yet? Seriously, are you watching this without subscribing? Can't believe you're doing that to me. Anyway, go down below, hit the subscribe button, make sure you give us a like. That way you don't lose out and miss out on any of this educational content that I know you guys love. All right, back into it. These are all the necessary things that you'll need. First and foremost, we gotta clean the trim. We're gonna be using some isopropyl alcohol. You can utilize this, which is 91, you can use 70, it doesn't matter, as long as it's iso alcohol. You can use a paint coating prep if you have some laying around, or paint prep, or any of the other paint preps that we have here. I, however, really like using alcohol, especially when I'm working on really, really rough trim. That way we can make sure we put the most protection and restoration back into it. For the restoration, solution finish back to black. This is going to be our trim restore. If you have gray trim, they make a color called fusion gray. You can use that for your gray trim, but for this vehicle, it's all black, so we're using the black one. To top that, and to protect all those lowers I was saying, we're gonna be using over the top, which is a protective sealant that is gonna go on top of not only the restored plastic, but on all the other black plastic. This product is gonna provide UV as well as some hydrophobics to protect it from the elements. Now, to apply all that, some black 3x5 sponges and some ripping rags to wipe them off. Because we are gonna be using solution finish, I do recommend you wear gloves just because, well, it's kind of like a dye and we're gonna be dyeing our skin at the same time. So let's be safe and wear some gloves. All right, so we have our plastic right here. Now, the first thing you could do is mask this off if you wanna be careful. That way you don't get any extra on the paint, but I'm a professional, so I'm gonna do this without tape. Basically, we're gonna take our little towel. Here I've got a ripping rag already ripped, and we're gonna pour a little alcohol on it. And what we're gonna do is literally just clean this area. So I'm gonna actually like kind of soak it in some spots, mostly to make sure that all these little nooks and crannies around the edges, made sure that I've gotten in there. And the goal is to remove any dirt. If you want to, you can use a brush. You can add in like a Detail Factory scrub brush or something if you'd like, so that while it's wet, you can give it a little bristle scrubbing, and that way it'll help get all that dirt and grime out. Because the goal is we want this trim to be as clean and as naked as possible. That way, when we go to put our penetrative agent in, which is our trim restore, we're gonna be able to get good, even coverage. So, as this is drying, you can see I did the whole panel, and we're still drying on this side, but we're pretty dry on here. We're gonna take our solution finish, trim restore, we're just gonna shake it up. A little bit goes a very, 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 very long way. So we're only gonna need a couple drops. Serious, it's crazy. You don't need that much. We've probably put 4 drops on this applicator sponge. We're just gonna be as careful as we can applying the product specifically to the trim. Now, if you get a little bit on the paint, that's fine. You're gonna finish what you're doing, and then I would immediately grab a towel and wipe it off. That way you don't have to worry. You don't want it to dry on the surface. But if you're just working in this area, and let's say we get a little bit on the paint here, we're just gonna take a towel and we're gonna wipe it off. We don't have to worry about it. Now, for people wondering, this restoration can last up to 2 years. The key is proper prep work and the ability to make sure that this plastic is fully loaded with Restore. Many times people will do what we just did. Looks great, I'm done. And then they'll immediately take their towel and wipe this off. The biggest key is we're gonna let it sit. So as it's absorbing, you'll notice that it does start to change color. So we're gonna look for that. This is the first initial application, and I can already see some spots that I may need to apply more. If you look right in here, you can see that it's starting to dry out a little bit, and that's because it's absorbing all that Restore. So we're gonna let this sit. We'll see what we got in about 15 minutes. All right, so it's been about 15 minutes. And as you can see, this looks pretty dang good. It's actually not too bad, but it is dry. The surface is not wet. The surface doesn't have like any excess bleed over. So it means that it could probably use a second coat, and that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna put some product here on my applicator sponge, and we're gonna go back over it, and we're gonna add a little more to the whole thing. If we get to a point where there is a puddle or product sitting on the surface that is still wet after about 30 minutes on the second application, then we're gonna know that that is fully loaded. It's basically, think of it like a glass of water. Like we've got half a glass of water, maybe there's a quarter of it, of the water in the glass. We've just added another quarter, but it's still only half full. So we're gonna put a little more product into that and make sure it's full. But if it's overflowing, well, this plastic will have it sitting on the surface on top. So I'm gonna let this sit now for about 30 minutes. All right, so it's been 30 minutes. We got a ripping rag, and all we're gonna do is wipe this all off. So we're gonna make sure that it's nice and dry. It's been looking really good. And any of the excess we've got on the rag, and as you can see, it pretty much drank all that up. Now, if this was my car, I would probably add a third coat just because I'm weird that way, but this is a friend of ours, so I think this is good enough for what he needs. And honestly, we've done 2 applications, which is more than most people actually do. Now, before we go to the protection step, I wanted to show you something that I love most about Solution Finish. Now, since we wiped it, I'm gonna take my glove off here. And as you can see, my hand is nice and clean. I'm gonna wipe it all over the plastic. There's no transfer. So we're gonna finish out the rest of this. I'm gonna hit the other parts of the vehicle, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about protection. All right, so we've now let our trim sit, and it is penetrated properly, and we've dried it with a towel. We've just wiped over the whole thing with a ripping rag. It is nice and dry to the touch. So what we're gonna do now is add the over-the-top sealer. So over-the-top is a plastics sealer, and it's used on textured plastics like this. But what it is gonna do is hydrate and protect this plastic so that these blacks will stay black. If they're gray, they'll stay gray. But the point is, you're protecting this just like you would maybe after a shower. You throw some lotion on your skin to make it soft and supple. You're basically doing the same thing with the plastics on your vehicle. So if you have a new vehicle, you can use this product to keep the plastics looking their best. You don't have to use Solution Finish. The combo that we've done with the Solution Finish on here and this is for restoring and protecting. But if all you need to do is protect, like I'm going to show you right now, we're just going to use Solution Finish over the top. Now, what you want to do with this product, we're going to be using a different applicator pad for this, is you're just going to shake it up. It's super simple, super easy to use. We're just going to apply a little bit of product to our applicator pad in the same way that we did Solution Finishes Trim Restorer. So same, right? So just a couple little drops. That might be too much, but we're gonna utilize all of it. So I'm just gonna spread it around on my applicator. And then we're gonna just take that, we're gonna put it right on top of the plastic. And we're just gonna rub it in again, just like the other products. We're gonna make sure that we've got nice coverage and we're getting in all the little nooks and crannies. And we're just gonna let that stuff sit. And now, while that stuff sits, we're gonna let it dry. We're gonna go around and start doing the rest of the vehicle. So dress the rest of the lower plastics. We're gonna hit all the spots that we conditioned because everything now is ready to receive over the top. All right, guys, so there you have it. We have successfully restored our trim pieces and we've sealed all the black plastic, not only the ones that we restored, but the lowers on the bottom. So you guys can pick up the products we used today at our Amazon store and our YouTube web shop. And you might be the envy of the neighborhood when you're all finished. So as always, guys, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos just like this right here at the Rag Company. And make sure you leave a comment